Before the world ever fell in love with Princess Diana, before the fairy tale wedding, the heartbreak, the global tears, there was a woman who walked that path first. But her name has been mostly forgotten. Her name was Sarah Spencer, Diana's older sister, the first woman Prince Charles courted seriously, and the one who lost it all with just one sentence. This is not just a story about royalty, it's about fate, regret, silence, and the delicate, invisible threads that tie two sisters together, even as history chooses only one. She was born Lady Sarah McCorquodale, elegant, sharp-witted, unafraid of speaking her mind. The eldest of the four Spencer children, Sarah grew up under the heavy chandeliers of Althorpe House, a world of tradition, decorum, and deeply buried emotion. But unlike her younger sister Diana, Sarah was bold, direct, and always a little wild. She once said proudly, "I was the rebel. Diana was the good girl." In the summer of 1977, Sarah's path crossed with Prince Charles. They had met before, but that season, it turned serious. They rode horses together at Windsor, attended hunting weekends at Balmoral. They shared whispered jokes and long walks away from the cameras. It was the first time Charles truly smiled since leaving the Navy. And one chilly afternoon, Sarah brought Charles to Althorpe for a family visit. The house was buzzing, but Charles barely noticed the shy teenager in the hallway, a 16-year-old Diana peeking around corners, watching her sister's royal romance unfold. Sarah didn't know it then, but she had just introduced her sister to the man who would change her life. At first, Sarah didn't fear Diana's presence. Why would she? Diana was just a schoolgirl. Sarah was confident, worldly, and already close to the royal inner circle. But everything changed over lunch. In early 1978, Sarah agreed to an interview with two journalists, Nigel Nelson and James Whittaker. Over lunch in London, she talked freely, too freely. She spoke of her past eating disorders. She joked about having thousands of boyfriends. And then, she said the one sentence that ended it all. "I wouldn't marry Charles if he were the dust man or the king." That quote hit the tabloids by morning. Charles was furious. Sarah's phone rang hours later. His voice was cold. "You've just done something incredibly stupid," and that was the end.
One name, one story, one legacy that shaped the world. Welcome to Timeless Voices, where legendary lives come to life.
Sarah had unknowingly shattered her chances at the crown. Not with a scandal, not with betrayal, but with honesty. She laughed it off in public, told friends she didn't care, but in private, she wept. One close friend later said, "Sarah never forgave herself, not for the interview, not for losing him, not for what happened next." Because just 1 year later, Charles came back to Althorpe. But this time, he wasn't looking for Sarah. He wanted Diana. Some say it was revenge. Some say it was fate. But Sarah didn't stop it. In fact, she encouraged it. She once told a reporter, "I introduced them. I'm Cupid." But behind those words was something else. Was it pride? Resignation? Guilt? No one knows what Sarah really felt when she stood in the pews of St. Paul's Cathedral, watching her younger sister walk down the aisle, to marry the man she once thought she would spend her life with. July 29th, 1981. The whole world watched Diana's wedding. But one woman, hidden behind her hat in the second row, watched with a different ache in her heart. Friends later said Sarah whispered, "This could all have been mine." Diana loved her sister deeply, but as the years passed, things changed. There were subtle signs, a coolness, a distance, moments of sisterly love, interrupted by long silences. Diana once said, "I trust very few people, even family." Was she talking about Sarah? Sarah moved on. She married Neil McCorquodale in 1980. Had 3 children, Emily, George, and Celia. She stayed away from the cameras, no interviews, no royal gossip, just long walks in the countryside, and memories she never shared. Meanwhile, Diana's world exploded. Marriage, fame, loneliness, heartbreak. And through it all, Sarah watched. Then came 1997. The night Diana died, Sarah was asleep. A phone call woke her. The line crackled. "There's been a crash in Paris." Sarah flew with Prince Charles to collect Diana's body. She walked beside the coffin, silent, steady. At the funeral, Sarah stood at the pulpit. Her voice trembled, but she read every word. A sister, a mourner, a witness to him. After Diana's death, Sarah devoted herself to preserving her memory. She became co-executor of the will, president of Diana's Memorial Fund. She guarded Diana's legacy like a shield. But still, she rarely spoke, not in books, not in interviews. Today, Lady Sarah lives quietly in Lincolnshire. No social media, no royal appearances, but she's there at every major moment in William and Harry's lives. She was there when William married Kate. She was there when Harry married Meghan. She visits, she hugs, she remembers. Harry once said in an interview, "My mother's sisters are like guardians of her spirit." Sarah still walks the grounds of Althorpe, sometimes alone, sometimes with her grandchildren. And sometimes, just maybe, she passes the hallway where Diana once stood, watching her big sister, falling in love with a prince. History chose Diana, the cameras chose Diana, but behind every crown, there is always someone who was almost chosen. Someone who watched, someone who loved, and someone who let go. Lady Sarah Spencer was the first, the forgotten heart in a royal love triangle, the sister who lost a crown, but gained something even deeper. Silence, memory, and the undying loyalty of blood.